Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss the 2024 version of The Crow, starring Bill Skarsgård, FKA Twigs, and Danny Huston, directed by Rupert Sanders. Now, before I get into this movie, I did call this a reboot, and I'm going to forever call it a reboot. I don't care what the producers or anybody at the studio or any of those motherfuckers say about this isn't being a reboot or whatever. This is a reboot, god motherfucking damn it. Let's get into the movie. We start with a young Eric seeing a horse dying as it got caught on a razor wire, and we get the opening credits going kind of weirdly, like some of the crew's names first, and the actors and the director's name last. As this is already, and this I already know is going to be bad on both of my viewings. While we get that Dragon Tattoo remake with David Fincher directing, the opening credits like that, but let's move on. As we move on to Shelley, played by FKA Twigs, getting a call from her friend Zadie with a Z, and her other friend Dorm are in trouble for death, and a henchwoman named Marion finds Zadie and kills Vincent, and is killed by Vincent Rogue, played by Danny Huston, but not yet on Shelley, as she gets caught by the cops and taken to a place to get cleaned, where she meets Eric, played by Bill Skarsgård, as the inmates and psychiatrists don't like him, as they let the other inmates pick on him for what reason? I don't fucking know. As the psychiatrists in this place are such assholes, while Dorm hides around, and the shots are terrible, as the editing in this movie is absolutely choppy in this movie. Rogue meets with a young woman who plays the piano and is interrupted by Marion, and he says he looks forward to hearing her play the piano, and he tells Zadie to kill herself like he's the devil. And I'm like, what the fuck has this series turned into? A crow versus a devil? As the actors in this movie felt wasted in this point, to the point they can't save the fucking movie, and despite this is the same material as the comic book, the script is stupid and unacceptable. Meanwhile, back at the asylum, I'm going to call it continue to hate Eric as Shelley introduces herself to him, as he likes her tattoos about crying and tell a horrible joke, and one of the guards takes Eric to an appointment he has while the movie moves on. While we move on to Eric and Shelley moving forward like they want to move on, and Shelley's mother Sophia rides in a car with Marion on the way to the asylum. I think that's what that is. I'm not fucking sure. And we learn Shelley played music in the past, as it'll come back to as the plot of the movie much later in the movie. And Shelley has visitors with Eric looking, and she wants to run away from them, and the cinematography is awful in this movie. Eric and Shelley go in the laundry room and escape together as they stay together in Dorm's place, as I had to close my eyes because of how choppy the editing was, and like I did with Jurassic World Dominion, as I can't follow this movie as they become boyfriend-girlfriend by having sexual intercourse and taking a bath together and take a pill and drink champagne. And why the fuck do we need the romance, as this movie is a little bit too long at an hour and 50 minutes? As 19 minutes of it should have been in the editing room floor. As this should have been a 90 fucking minute movie. But no, this is an hour and 51 minutes. And there's so much wrong with the pacing in this movie, as the romance took a little bit too long, as we keep going with them being in love, to the point I'm like, the audience gets it. They're in love. Now stop making it more explicit, while Rogue listens to the young girl play some classic music, and the cops find Zadie's dead body in the water, and a corrupt cop named Detective Milch tells them they're coming after Rogue and some traces, and unfortunately this is an ugly looking movie from start to finish. I mean, Jesus. After a nice day at the park, Eric and Shelley play some music, and Eric drags her to play some music, and she remembers a horrible thing that happened in the past that the audience will find out later in the film, as they take a walk, as they chat about how she hurt someone and she's afraid to tell him or else he'll leave her. and he promises he'll follow her anywhere she goes. And they go to a club, and Shelley finds Dorm, wording her about Rogue is coming for her, and she and Eric go back to their place, gets killed by Marion and Rogue's goons. And in the afterlife, Eric tries to help Shelley, but she drowns to hell. And Eric swims up to the shore and finds a man. The crow maker gives him powers of a crow, and the writing in this made me think of two different movies of similar plots. One was The Punisher, and the other one was John Wick. Putting in a blender, and you've got this piece of shit. Eric doesn't believe he and Shelley are dead until he's approached by Detective Milch, who shoots at him in the first place and fight to the death while Eric stabbing Milch to death. And he witnesses he can heal himself, He goes outside and sees a crow following him around as Eric sees Shelley jumping in the river, and he learns from the crow master they're both dead. And Wickham says to kill the people who got him killed. It's the crow master who got him killed them all, and he and Shelley come back to life. Honestly, despite this movie is pretty bad, I'm actually having a better time with this one more than Salvation and Wicked Prayer, the two Crow sequels that I just recently reviewed. Eric goes to a friend's place to get a gun, and he gets in a limousine after Shelley's funeral to talk with Sophia to get some information about who he has to kill to save Shelley's life, and sees photos of Shelley, Zadie, and Dorm and Eric. Takes a walk and finds one of the men who killed him, and he asks who does he work for, but he tries to grab a gun, but Eric shoots him dead as Marianne and Wickham walk out of the building and get attacked by Eric as he fails to stop the bad guys by getting ran over by a motherfucking truck, and his leg is broken, fixes it, which has gotta fucking hurt. While Rogue visits Sophia and he learns Eric wants to kill him for love, Rogue tells Sophia to commit suicide by jumping out the window, which was stupid as shit. I mean, come on, I don't like that power too much. Eric finds Dorm and tells him everything about Rogue and confesses that he made a video of a party with himself, the bad guys, and Shelley, in which she had on her phone, and doesn't want anyone else to see, as Eric goes back to their place and finds her phone and sees the video and of how she killed a woman because it was told devilishly by Rogue, and he lost his faith in her and their love. And the soundtrack was not great in this movie, as this is just a bunch of background noise. While Eric goes to the friend's place and shows it to him and believes he doesn't want to do the vigilante shit anymore, which sounds a hell of a lot like winning as Rogue's goons get in the friend's place, or whining, as Rogue's goons get in the friend's place and grab Eric to bring him to Rogue and kill his friend off. And Eric is shot but not healing to do. And do I think some of this is very bad writing and acted by Bill Skarsgård? Hell to the motherfucking yes, because come on, he's a better actor than this material gives him. Jesus Christ. And let's just move on. Eric comes back to the underworld as he doesn't believe in his love for Shelley, as he says trade for his life for hers, which means when he finishes the job of the crow, she'll live and he'll die. And the crows accept, as he does the crow master and becomes a crow and fights back against Rogue's goons and kills the last goon repeatedly with a gun, and it kills him, which was so stupid. And he reads the text to meet at the opera house in 2 hours and gets all goth up, and he prepares himself to kill every single last motherfucker that got him and Shelley killed. As we get to the opera house, as everybody is in the audience grabbing a seat while the performance goes on, and it does look like a great show, meaning better than this movie, Eric gets to the opera house and kills people with a sword and sometimes a gun in order to get Marion and Wickham. And we get a brutal death after, like, a sword in the mouth, which reminded me of the book kill in John Wick 3, while the guards try to kill Eric dead, but he keeps the getting back up like the Punisher until every single guard is fucking dead. Like once, like one with the sword at the eyeball, which John Wick 3 did that death better in my opinion. Marion calls Rogue, telling him Eric is here and killing every single last one of them. As Wickham tries to kill Eric, but Eric decapitates Wickham. And Marion asks Marion where Rogue is at, and she tells him where he's at. And the show is over, and the applause goes on, and Aaron brings out the heads of decapitated Marion and Wickham and throws them at the audience and sees Shelley, which was painfully bad. And there was a shot in the opera house was thinking of the ballerina scene in John Wick 3, which has done better than that movie, as there's going to be a movie like that next year called Ballerina in the John Wick franchise, as he brings flowers to the river where they were talking earlier at her cemetery. And does this work? Absolutely not, as I'm not engaged in this scene, but this last half hour is better than anything in The Crow's Salvation and Wicked Prayer. Eric goes to Rogue's house and sees he's looking at himself in the mirror, and Eric points the sword at Rogue, and Rogue tells Eric he can't bring back Shelley, as he finds out it was Rogue who made Shelley kill the woman in the video on her phone, and Rogue just says he doesn't feel love, only hate, as Rogue tries to make Eric to kill himself and give him his crow powers, but instead brings him to the underworld and beats the shit out of Rogue to the point it almost kills him, until some demons from the water brings Rogue to hell. And Eric resurrects Shelley and tells he can't come back to the world with her as he dies, and the editing in this scene just felt choppy. Like she cries, but then she's fine, and it's already over, and sings to the world as she performs he's just a memory of her. And the climax was stupid and lame. And director Rupert Sanders, is this the best you could do to the remake of The Crow? Because it's a horrible choice, and I'll explain why in my rating. I'll give this movie a 2.5 out of 10. At least I had a better time here than in the last two movies. While the shots are terrible, and the editing in this movie is choppy to the point I had to close my eyes like I did with Jurassic World Dominion. And I was expecting the worst out of this, like the last two movies. But like I said, I had a better time with this than the last two movies. The cinematography made this movie look ugly, as this is an ugly movie for damn sure, from start to finish, as the actors are terrible to the point they can't save the movie. And at the end of the day, while the pacing in this movie took too long to get to the fucking point of the title of the movie, as we focus on the romance for an hour, and then the vigilante shit for the rest of the movie, as 19 minutes of this movie should have been in the editing room floor, as this movie is a little too long, as this should have been a 90-minute fucking movie. But no, instead we have an hour and 50-minute long movie. The movie is pretty bad for damn sure, but not as worse as I was expecting this movie to be, in my opinion, as it is a solid non-recommendation for this movie. I just wish this whole damn series was better than that it was at the end of the day, as this doesn't deserve a 1.0 out of 10 for the year, as it still belongs to Madam Web, but it gets to a 2.5 out of 10 for me. And if you love the original, don't bother seeing this movie. Just watch the original movie again. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me for this Crow retrospective, and until then, fly, crow, fly away.